we all want this amazing piece of land that's going to be our home, to raise our kids, to live in the countryside, to be free. We all want 30 acres, the river stream, mature trees, rolling hills. We want it all. But the reality is that if you're going to be farming for a livelihood, and that's going to be how you make your living, there's some elements of choosing farm that's not related to what our heart is saying. It's not about the view, it's not about the rolling hills, and it's not about the mature maple trees. When we bought our land here, man, you should have seen it. It certainly wasn't what it is now, but there was some things that were key ingredients that later on, and still today, are making our success. And so today what I want to do is share with you 6 key elements, 6 things that you really need to have in mind. This should be your checklist before and when you're about to choose your farmland. So number 1 is understanding soil ecology before you choose your farmland. And this is something that it's very important that to understand 2 things. Soil, definitely great soil, good soil will make good farmland. And good farmland ultimately, makes organic farming a success or not. Okay, so that's a definite for sure. And I think we can all understand that. But soil is not the limiting factor on most farms, because in market gardening, we can build soil. We can take soil that is super clayey or super sandy, and we can add a lot of organic matter. We work in permanent beds. We add a lot of compost. We add a lot of soil amendments. We can build up our soils over time, over the year. The question is, how much time will it take, and how degraded was the soil beforehand? That's the compromise. Where there's no compromise is if there's enough soil. That's the ultimate limiting thing on a piece of land. If you have 6 inches of soil, it's not going to happen. It's not enough. If you're going around with a shovel or a pitchfork and you're hitting ding, 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 all over the place because you're on rock and there's no subsoil, it won't be possible. But if you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 feet of soil and the top layer isn't perfect, that shouldn't be a reason to choose or not a farm. Remember, small scale farming, market gardening, we have the luxury of being able to shape soil and transform it because we're adding a lot of organic matter, because we're adding cover crops, because we're building the soil year after year after year. So, starting with good soil, yes. If it's heavy clay, it's going to define a lot of your practices. If it's sandy, it's going to define practices. If it's super rocky, it's going to define a lot of your growing practices. But what's important is that there's enough soil. That's really the ultimate limiting factor. So make sure that your piece of land has good soil and it has exposure, light exposure. It's the good soil that is not in the deep of the forest where there's no light coming in. So again, marginal land, we have the luxury of finding these little pockets, these little pieces of farmland that's perhaps not big enough for bigger agriculture to happen, and we can take these small pieces of land and make them into something wonderful. That's what happened here at our farm. So this was, 2 acres, and it was too small for a bigger farm to buy and operate. It wasn't enough land. And for us, it was just perfect. And it certainly wasn't like this when we bought it, but over the years, we've built up the soil, we've kickstarted the ecology in the soil, and our growing practices make it viable on the long run. So, soil, really important, but having enough of it is really where it's at. Okay guys, jumping in here. If you want to learn how to assess your soil in a simple way without having to do soil tests, you can check out the resource that we have at the Market Gardener Institute. It's a free ebook about how to assess your soil simply and effectively. Just click on the link below. It's a free resource. It's there for you, friends. Number 2 is understand your climate zone, okay? And what I mean by that it's not 7A, 5B, 6E. Like I myself don't even know these zones. They're different from the US, from Canada. It's about understanding the microclimate of where the site is. And it's all about seeing with your eyes what's growing, what's there when you're visiting that piece of land, ideally in the spring, okay? Because you can really see what's growing and if it's going to be early or if it's a super late site. And that mostly has to do with, yes, where you are. If you're in Pennsylvania or if you're in Florida or you're in Quebec, it's going to, obviously it's going to influence your growing a lot. But it's not the ultimate determining factor either, because again, in market gardening, one of the key principle and one of the key major thing of how market gardening makes farming successful is that you can do season extension. You can take a piece of land and you can add greenhouses, you can add tunnels, polytunnels, you can add caterpillar tunnels, you can add mini tunnels, you can add row covers, you can add row covers inside mini tunnels, inside a caterpillar tunnel, and then you can grow 2-3 months before your last frost date, and you can extend your growing season all the way till whenever. Okay, we're in Quebec here, South Quebec, so we're just on the border with Vermont, and we're growing like 10 months out of the year. Okay, so your climate, your seasonality will influence a lot of what you grow, but it's not the ultimate limiting factor. So that's something to keep in mind. What's really important is that where the site is has somewhat of a microclimate or a special circumstance where things want to grow there, and you can really see that. So it's really about
phenomenology.
It's really about phenomenology. Phenomenology. It's like this verb that talks about what's growing, what's happening in that place. That's really what's important. So forget about zones and look at the microclimate. Talk to farmers in that area. Is that a good site? What's growing there? You can see the grass or, whatever's growing there. You can see if it wants to be there, if it's having problem. And you can see how perhaps that's ahead or late. So in short, climate zones, yes, higher level, but what really matters is that you look at the site and you ask yourself, do things want to grow here? Does this site offer this place for growing? And that's really something that you need to see for yourself. One other question that I get asked a lot is flat land a necessary? And the answer is no, because some slight hill might be good for market gardening. It's going to help to channel the excess water away from the growing area, but that needs to be not too much, because if you have a hilly piece of land that you're trying to farm, soil erosion is going to be a problem. There's a lot of logistic problems with moving the small machinery and everything uphill all the time, just moving your produce around. So you want to have a piece of land that has perhaps just a little slight slope, ideally on the south side, but flat land is not something that's a prerequisite, not at all. Number 3, finding the right size of land. Size really matters, okay? First things first, obviously, if you want to farm with a tractor and you want to have a crew of 10, 20 people and you want to grow volumes and move produce, you'll need a lot of farmland. You'll need 5, 10, 20, 40 acres. Okay, that's okay, that's great. My experience in farming is that that's not necessary. You could also have a smaller market garden. You could be farming on 2 acres, 1 acre even, and you can still be making a lot of money. That's what I've been doing here on this farm, and that's what I've been proving through a lot of the work that we do at the Market Gardener Institute. In my opinion, less is more. What it boils down to is how much land do you want to care for? Owning 30 acres is something, but do you really have the time to manage those 30 acres intentionally with the right amount of care to really make it productive all the way through? The answer is probably not, because managing with care takes a lot of time, and time is really the limiting factor on any farm. Okay, so all of this to say that, you know, a piece of land will only be as valuable as how much energy you give to it. And if you're market gardening, or if you're interested in learning about market gardening, the whole thing about it, what's great is that you only need 1 or 2 acres. And those 2 acres will be really, really intentionally managed, and there's going to be a lot of insight and a lot of energy put into these acres. The rest, really, in my opinion, in the kind of farming model that I follow, you don't really need it. So, do you need to buy it? Is that a luxury? Is that going to build up the capital outlay that you'll need to live, or the expense, or the mortgage? Like, being lean and farming with what you have and what you need is really the key point here. And you know, friends, honestly, right now, land is f***ing expensive. Like, I don't know where you are, but where I am, you know, buying 10, 20 acres is just not, it's not realistic at all. And that's the gift of market gardening, is that you only need a few acres. And so if that's what you can afford, just keep in mind that you can do it with just a few acres. Number 4 is absolutely non-negotiable, and it's something that you need to have in mind. It's water. Water is life. Water is a prerequisite to anything that has to do with growing vegetables on a farm. The piece of land that you'll choose needs to have enough water, either from a well, either from a pond, either from the municipality, whatever, to water your fields every week. That's a minimum. And in many climates, more than once a week, perhaps more than once a day. And to also wash and process all your vegetables. There's a lot of water that goes into washing, processing vegetables week after week after week. And so having a reliable, consistent water supply is an absolute must. Before you commit to buying land, make sure that you have investigated if there's water on the site, if you can dig a well, how deep will it be? That's always a big question, because you know, when the well digger comes, is it 50 feet or is it 5,000 feet? You don't know. So make sure that you try to get clear with that. Is it possible to dig a pond? Do you have the permits to do this? Or, you know, is there any other way that you can have access to enough water for your farming operation? That's definitely a non-negotiable. If water is not there, if water is a short supply, man, I can't imagine being a successful farmer without water. And people down south that have these water issues, they're very clever. If you're listening to this and you're farming without a lot of water, you're clever, and I admire you tremendously. But honest to God, friends, water is a big part of growing vegetables. Imagine all the money you'll make in farming comes from vegetables, and these vegetables are 90% water. Okay, so water. Water makes good soil ecology. Water makes the plant grow. Water is life. So make sure that you are serious about investigating the amount of water that's available on the given site. So number 5 is a very important one, and now we're getting close to the business side of farming, not just the agronomy of it. And it has to do with market access. So the site, your farm, needs to be close enough to where you'll be selling your vegetables. And that needs to be very clear. So the best scenario is close to a small city or towns where people are interested in buying fresh, local, organic vegetables, and that you'll be able to sell what you grow. And that's so important, because selling is half the job. And that's really what allows you to make a living farming on small acreage. It's like the beauty of market gardening is that you don't need a lot of volumes. but you need to sell everything directly, and you need to have access to a community of people that are interested in supporting local agriculture and that have somewhat the means to pay for that value that they cherish. Okay? So having a good market around you and not, driving 3 hours to go to market, because perhaps when you're younger or you're starting, you don't think about that. But when you need to drive all the way out to deliver your vegetables or to sell them, like that's time off the farm. That's not why you got into farming. You want to be on the farm. You want to be spending your days outside, not in traffic, not on the highway. Okay? And that's non-productive time. It's an expenditure. So in my opinion, an hour and a half is almost max of where you want to be to an affluent place where you'll be able to sell. I know that sounds very restrictive, and perhaps some of you listening to this will be like, yeah, no, I want to be further out, the price will be better. But believe me, like it's a lot of moving your vegetables is a lot of time, and it's a lot of downtime, and it's not why you got into farming. In the work that I do, I've seen hundreds of farms, thousands of farms, okay? And the most profitable farms that I've seen, I have one in mind, is right in the city or close to the city in a neighborhood. It's an agri-hood, and man, it's killing it. Okay, it's on 2 acres, and I can't even say the numbers because it's ridiculously high. But if people can see the farm and there's an affluent community, man, you'll make a killing. So remember, market gardening is powerful. It's a gift from God because it allows you to start without a lot of capital. It allows you to start without a lot of farmland. It allows you to start on your terms, but you need to be selling. And I know that some people listening to this will be like, I don't want to have a farm that's elitist. I don't want to be serving all these rich people. That's not what I'm talking about. Like, you don't need to be servicing, high income gated communities. But you need to be in a place where there's enough people that want to support a local farm. And that's really critical, friends, because at the end of the day, your sales will determine if you're happy in life on the farm, okay? It's as simple as that. Farms that are doing well are farms that are moving their produce, they're selling, and they're concentrating on the growing and on the farm life. Farms that are not happy, farms that are struggling, sometimes it's the farming, most of the time it's the selling. Because when you're growing amazing, bountiful vegetables and you can't sell it, it's a shit show, and you don't want to live that scenario. So make sure that you're thinking about finding the sweet spot between where you want to be and where people want to support you and your farming. Number 6, the last one, is in my opinion the most important one, okay? And that's choosing your community. Choosing your community, where you want to be, where you want to live, where you want your kids to go to school to, where you want to go for a beer, for a coffee, where you want to hang out, who's going to be your friends in that area. So the farm needs to be nearby where you want to be, and where you want to be for perhaps 60, 70 years. That's really how you need to think about it, because there's no point in finding cheap land in the middle of nowhere where you'll be unhappy, and when you need to drive again like an hour to be with some folks that you like, because that's going to make for a miserable life. It's a lot more ideal to find a space, a community where you feel that this is going to be your tribe, this is going to be who you'll be, parenting soccer teams with, where you'll go to the community center, the local church, whatever that space. But community is who we are. Community is everything. We are living on earth, being, who we are. It's all about connection. It's all about togetherness. It's all about how we relate to one another and how we impact positively the community from where we are. And so make sure that that piece of land that you choose is in the community where you want to live, and where you want to raise your family, raise your kids, and be a part of. That's really, 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 really important. I would rather have a piece of land that doesn't have great soil, that doesn't have perfect microclimate, that's a bit too big, but is close to my heart of where I want to be. Because ultimately, friends, farming is how you spend your day, and where you spend your day is how you'll connect with everyone else. So make sure that it's close by to where you want to live. And that's, I would say, is really important. And we're lucky here. We're part of an amazing community. We're a growing community. We have access to so many friends, so many resources. I'm so happy to live where I live. And when I chose the farm land that we bought, the quality of the school, the kindergarten and the school was so important for us. And our kids had a blast. And now they're off to university and it's not relevant anymore, but we had a good life farming on this small acre here in South Quebec. And finally, on that point, a little piece of wisdom here is that it's totally possible to build community, to start a community. But you need to be that special person. You need to have that leadership in you that you're going to be driving this. And it's not for everyone. So you need to know yourself. Okay? Coming from a small town and wanting to live as a small town is perfect. Moving to a faraway land and starting anew is also perfect. There's no right and wrong. But just make sure that you think about community before you commit to a specific piece of land, because the farmland will become your life. And your life, how you live it, really matters. And again, if you're interested in learning about how we farm, you can check out the introductory course at the Market Gardener Institute. It's amazing. It's all the resources that you need to understand before you commit to the journey, okay? These are key points that you need to understand. It's all there for you, friends. We want to help you on your journey. I hope this is helpful. I'll see you next time. JM out.